I found a set of tiny antique glass balls. Each one is hollow, delicate, and has a small tip at the end. They're numbered on top and about 2 centimeters in size. They seem like they're meant to float, but I'm not sure where or why. Any ideas? What you found are hydrostatic bubbles, a clever 18th century invention used to test the strength of alcoholic spirits. Created by Dr. Alexander Wilson around 1757, these delicate glass spheres were used by merchants, distillers, and customs officials to measure alcohol content before modern hydrometers became common. Each bubble was precisely calibrated to a specific gravity and marked with a number. When dropped into a sample of liquor, the bubble would either float or sink, depending on the density of the liquid. The number on the bubble corresponded to a particular type of spirit or alcohol concentration, offering a quick and convenient way to assess the proof. These tools were practical, portable, and remarkably accurate for their time. I found this tall wooden object about 6 feet high inside Goethe House in Germany. It's believed to date back to the 1700s, but no one seems to know what it was used for. Any ideas? This item is most likely a linen or napkin press, a piece of furniture used in well-appointed homes during the 17th and 18th centuries. These tall wooden presses were designed to smooth and store fine linens, especially tablecloths and napkins, which were typically made of starched white fabric. By applying pressure, the press would flatten the fabric and give it a crisp, polished look. In wealthier households, napkin presses were commonly placed near the dining table for convenience and as a symbol of status. Simpler versions were kept in pantries or laundry rooms, used after laundering to keep linens neatly pressed and ready for guests. I found a strange pumpkin-shaped item that opens on a hinge. Inside, there's a latch holding a small glass jar with a sharp pin and a flat glass surface that lifts to reveal a hidden compartment. Any idea what it was used for? What you found is likely a Victorian-era vinaigrette, a small ornate container used to carry scented substances or smelling salts. These delicate objects were often worn on a chatelaine, a decorative chain clipped to a woman's belt that held essential items like keys, sewing tools, or tiny personal accessories. Inside the vinaigrette, a sponge soaked in vinegar or perfume would be placed beneath a pierced metal or glass lid. When unpleasant odors filled the air, common in crowded cities of the 18th and 19th centuries, women could discreetly open the vinaigrette and inhale the scent to refresh themselves, or even relieve faintness or nausea. By the early 20th century, improvements in public hygiene and the growing popularity of modern perfumes gradually led to the decline in the use of vinaigrettes. I found this tiny concrete bench near a curb in Eureka Springs, Arkansas. It faces away from the road and is too small for anyone to sit on, even a child. I have seen several like it around town. Any idea what they're for? What you found is probably an old carriage step, a relic from the days of horse-drawn transportation. These small concrete platforms were commonly placed near curbs in the 18th and 19th centuries to help passengers get in and out of carriages more easily. They provided a helpful boost for climbing up and a steady step for getting down, which was especially useful for women in long dresses or older individuals who might have struggled with the height. I picked up this large wooden object at a thrift store in the Netherlands. It looks a bit like an oversized clothespin, stands about 33 inches tall and weighs around 4 pounds. The wood is dark and worn, maybe over 40 years old. Any idea what it was used for? What you found is a washing dolly, a household laundry tool that was widely used from the early 1700s through the late 1800s. Long before washing machines, people used these heavy wooden tools to clean clothes by hand. Clothes were placed in a tub filled with hot water and soap, and the dolly was plunged into the tub and twisted back and forth to agitate the fabric. This process helped loosen dirt, but it took serious physical effort. Laundry day was hard work. Some versions had paddles or cross pieces on the end to stir the water more effectively. Interestingly, people sometimes had to remove the buttons from their garments before washing, since the force of the dolly could damage or break them. I found these black painted iron cones flanking a gate outside a building in Bath, England. They look old but were repainted recently. Any idea what they were originally used for? What you've spotted are likely old torch snuffers. iron cones once used to extinguish flaming torches before gaslighting became common in the 19th century. These were typically mounted at the entrance to buildings and used by link boys, young boys who carried pitch-soaked torches to guide wealthy pedestrians through dark city streets at night. Once their job was done, the link boy would extinguish the torch by pushing it into one of these cone-shaped snuffers. The metal prevented flames from spreading and contained the smoke and embers. This service, which typically cost a farthing, a quarter of a penny, was especially common in cities like Bath and London. I found this wooden item in the attic of an old country house in the Czech Republic. The top is an open container that rolls on round dowels, and the base has small storage doors on the back. It's built with carpentry joints and no nails. Any idea what it was used for? This item is a box mangle, an early laundry tool used to press and smooth fabric, long before electric irons or steam presses. First appearing in the 17th century, box mangles were common in large households, commercial laundries, and among self-employed mangle women across Northern Europe. The design consisted of a heavy wooden box, typically filled with stones that rolled back and forth across wooden rollers. Damp sheets or tablecloths were laid beneath or wrapped around the rollers, and the weight of the box would press them flat. It was a labor-intensive process, requiring one or even two people to crank or push the box repeatedly. Over time, smaller and even vertical versions were introduced in the 19th century. I found this old bronze vessel with two spouts. It looks a bit like a hanging lavabo, but the spouts are too low to hold water without spilling. Any idea what it might have been used for? The item you discovered is likely a Betty lamp, a simple but effective lighting device used throughout colonial America and Europe from the 1600s to the 1800s. These lamps were typically made of bronze or iron and designed to burn animal fat, whale oil, or other available oils. A wick would be placed in one or both of the spouts with the main chamber filled with oil. Once lit, the flame would burn steadily at the end of the spout, offering a soft, flickering glow. Betty lamps were usually hung on a hook or mounted on a wall and became a staple of everyday life in homes, workshops, and barns. The name Betty is believed to have come from the German word besser, meaning better, a nod to how these lamps improved upon earlier, more primitive open flame designs. Though simple by today's standards, the Betty lamp was an innovation that brought light and warmth to people's lives for generations. I found this antique clamp with a silver handle, but I can't figure out its purpose. The beak is hollow and it doesn't open very wide, so it doesn't seem medical. There's a United States quarter in the photo for scale. Any idea what this might have been used for? What you found is a glove stretcher, a 19th century tool designed to gently stretch and shape the fingers of leather gloves. In an era when tight-fitting gloves were part of everyday fashion, especially for women, putting them on could be a challenge, particularly if they were damp or had shrunk slightly over time. The tool usually featured two smooth, rounded arms connected by a hinge or spring. The tips were inserted into the fingers of the glove, and by squeezing the handles, the arms would spread apart, carefully stretching the leather without tearing it. This helped preserve the glove's shape and made it easier to slip on. Your silver-handled version suggests it may have belonged to someone of higher status, as many were made from wood or bone. My grandfather found this wooden container on a New Jersey beach just after World War II. It has a removable plug and a cap that screws off. Any idea what it could have been used for? This item is likely a musket powder flask, a tool used from the 17th through the 19th centuries to store and dispense black powder for firearms. These flasks were essential for both soldiers and hunters, as they allowed for quick and controlled loading of muskets and rifles in the field. The wooden construction wasn't just traditional, it was practical. Unlike metal, wood doesn't produce sparks, reducing the risk of accidental ignition. Many flasks were also made from materials like horn, brass, or leather, depending on the user's status and region. I have a metal object mounted next to my fireplace that can swing inward and seems to contain gears. It's been there forever, and the medallion reads Salter & Company. Any idea what it was originally used for? This item is a clockwork spit turner, manufactured by Salter & Company, a company known for making precision weighing and mechanical devices. This ingenious tool was used to automatically rotate meat on a spit over an open fire, ensuring even roasting without constant supervision. Inside the housing is a clockwork mechanism that, once wound, would slowly turn the spit at a steady pace. The entire device could swing into position beside the fire, allowing the meat to roast evenly on all sides. Before such mechanical turners became common, kitchens sometimes relied on a now-extinct breed of dog called the turn-spit dog, which would run inside a wheel to power the spit. I found this metal object near the shoreline on my property in Maryland, right by the Chesapeake Bay. The area was once a shipyard in the late 1700s, and the land dates back to the 1650s. It has raised decorative images on both sides. Any idea what it might be? What you found is the guard of a small sword, a type of elegant, lightweight weapon that was popular in the 18th century, especially among officers and gentlemen during the American Revolutionary period. The guard's primary purpose was to protect the hand from an opponent's blade, and on small swords it often featured intricate decorative work rather than heavy cross pieces seen on larger weapons. Swords like this were as much symbols of status as they were practical sidearms. I found examples similar to yours, including one carried by Captain John Paul Shott during the American Revolution, and another crafted by Boston silversmith William Cowell around 1760. The raised designs on both sides of your piece align with that same tradition, function blended with fine craftsmanship. Given the shipyard history of the land, it's entirely possible your find belonged to someone with military or naval ties in the late colonial period. I found this small silver-colored object in the yard. It fits in the palm of my hand and unscrews into several smaller pieces. Any idea what it could be? What you've discovered is most likely a rosewater sprinkler, an ornamental vessel commonly used in Middle Eastern and South Asian traditions throughout the 18th and 19th centuries. These small, handheld containers were usually made of silver and were used to gently spray scented water or perfume during celebrations, religious rituals, or to greet honored guests. The vessel typically comes apart into multiple pieces, allowing for easy cleaning and refilling. Inside, a slender tube or dropper helped dispense the fragrant liquid with a light flick of the wrist, onto hands, garments, or into the air. I found this mysterious box at a Goodwill store. Inside is a round, stone-like object and 5 pieces about the size of lighters, each decorated with dragons and inscriptions. Any idea what this set might be? What you found is likely a traditional East Asian calligraphy set, most commonly used in Chinese or Japanese ink painting, known as sumie. The 5 ornate pieces with dragon designs are ink sticks, solid blocks of compressed ink used for centuries in both writing and brush painting. The round, stone-like object is an inkstone, used to grind the ink into liquid form. To use the set, a few drops of water are placed on the inkstone. The inkstick is then pressed down and moved in gentle circles against the stone's surface, gradually releasing ink. The more you grind, the darker the ink becomes. This slow, deliberate process was considered part of the artistic ritual, calming, focused, and meditative. In the last video, I showed you a set of colored ceramic rings with small handles and asked if you could guess what they were. Many of you shared your thoughts, and most of you got it right. These colored ceramic rings are spoon rests, used to keep the tablecloth clean while you're cooking or serving. Thanks to everyone who shared their guesses, and a special shout out to Funny Username for being the first to identify the item correctly. Now I want to invite you to identify another mysterious object. I found this unusual small silver box with a wing-shaped piece attached to a chain. What do you think this item is? Leave your guesses in the comments and I'll reveal the answer in the next video.